Nintendo has made it very simple this go around to easily and safely transfer data from your original Switch to your Nintendo Switch 2. You can transfer users, save data, screenshots and videos, as well as system settings. There are two ways to do this. One, if you have your Switch present and your Switch 2 present. The other, if you plan to sell your original Switch and then obtain a Switch 2 later. First, let's start if you have both the old system and the new system in hand at the same time. Before you start any of this, you'll want to go ahead and make sure your original Switch is running the latest firmware. You'll also need both systems plugged in for the majority of the transfer, and this is true even if you have a near full battery. Here in a moment, you're going to see what happens if one of the systems is not plugged in. Of course, you do need an active internet connection for this and at least one user profile with a linked Nintendo account. And I also want to note here before we get started that the systems do need to be in close physical proximity to one another as well. You can see I have my two systems here very close together just on top of my desk. I have my Nintendo Switch OLED on the left and the Nintendo Switch 2 on the right. Now once you've gone through the initial setup process on the Switch 2, it will prompt you with this message. We have the option to start system transfer, don't transfer for those who don't have a Switch 1 or just don't want to transfer, and then an option to read more about the system transfer process. I'm going to go ahead and press Start System Transfer here. You're then prompted to go ahead and install a microSD Express card if you're adding one of those for additional storage. I chose to skip that option for now, and then the Switch 2 asked me to sign into my Nintendo account. There are multiple sign-in methods, but I chose to scan the QR code with my smartphone, which took me to Nintendo's website. Now, because I'm a parent and have a family account with Nintendo, both of my boys are also set up as part of my family. So when I pulled this up on my smart device, I had the option to choose my account or one of their accounts. So if you are setting this up for a child's account, do know that you'll have the option to choose their name here instead of yours. As this will be my Switch 2 primarily, I went ahead and selected my name on my smart device. It then gave me a 5-digit verification code I had to input on the Switch 2. Now just know for any parents watching out there, even if you pick your own account here, as long as you have your children set up as users on the Switch that you're transferring from, those user profiles will move over as well. Now, if for some reason you don't have them set up as users on the Switch you're transferring from, but they still have a Nintendo account, you'll simply be able to add them as individual users on the Switch 2 and log into their Nintendo account that way. Now, pressing OK here takes us to the next step. You can see we're now being prompted to go into the system settings on our original Switch. So we go to settings here, then scroll all the way down to system, and then all the way down to system transfer to Nintendo Switch 2. Again, there's an opportunity here to read more about the system transfer process, and once again, it confirms what we'll be able to transfer using this method. Now, if you make it this far and your Switch isn't running the latest firmware, this is where you'll be prompted to do so. After performing that system update, you won't need to go back into the settings menu as the Switch will automatically present you with a pop-up letting you continue on with the transfer. We'll just choose next here, and then the Switch lets us know that we can continue to use our Switch even after this transfer. This is not doing a full system reset. It's simply copying over the users, save data, settings, and any photos or videos from the original Switch. Now at this point, you may also have a message that says some save data will be transferred and removed from the current console. This appears to be on a game-by-game basis, as I have seen this pop up for other users, but for mine, I didn't get it at all. So what this means for me is that all of my game saves will actually stay there present on my Switch OLED and also be copied over to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now you can see there that I actually did not have my Switch 1 plugged directly into any kind of power. It was at like 97%, but I could not proceed here without having it plugged in directly. Just to see what would happen, I actually unplugged my Switch 2, then plugged the Switch 1 in. Of course, then the Switch 2 prompted me to connect the AC adapter, so you definitely need both systems to remain plugged in for this transfer to work. After plugging both in, I was able to choose Start Download on the Switch 2. It will then immediately begin sending over the information from the Switch OLED over to my new Switch 2. Of course, the time here will vary based on how much data you're moving. I mostly only had save data here that I was moving over, so mine took less than 5 minutes. If you're moving a lot of videos and screenshots though, this will likely take a lot longer. After a few moments, my Switch OLED said the data had been sent and to wait until the process was complete on the Switch 2. Just a minute or two later, and the Switch 2 was also finished. We then get this nice little Switch 2 welcome screen before being booted straight into the home menu. And as you can see, Nintendo did not make a whole lot of changes here. This looks very similar to the original Switch. You can also see here from the home menu that my digital games have immediately started to download. So this transfer process is not moving over the full games. You'll need to wait for each of them to download before you can play. I went ahead and booted up Luigi's Mansion 3 on my OLED to confirm that yes, it is still there and able to play. Then I also attempted to launch it on the Switch 2. Now, even though they're separate systems, the Switch OLED immediately detected the game was being played on another console using the same Nintendo account. So it kicked me out on the Switch OLED and booted up the game on the Switch 2. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that for this video because this is all about the virtual game cards and how those work across different users on different systems. But if you would like to see a video of me breaking that down, then just let me know in the comments. So even after kicking me out on Switch OLED, it does go ahead and boot up here on the Switch 2. You can then see that all my save data is here, transferred over to Switch 2 with no problems. I did also verify off screen that my Luigi's Mansion 3 save data remained on the Switch OLED as well as on the new Switch 2. So again, definitely keep an eye out for that other message I mentioned to see if there's any save data that will be fully moved from your old Switch system when you do that transfer. So that is how you do method 1, and it was really a rather seamless process. Everything went very smoothly for me here and didn't take a whole lot of time either. The second method of doing a transfer is for those who are planning to sell or pass on the old Switch before the new system arrives. So the beginning of the process is pretty much the same. You'll want to make sure your Switch is updated. You go into the settings and go all the way down to that transfer for Switch 2. Here though, you can choose the option to upload your data to a dedicated server and then download it when you have the Switch 2 in hand. So back at this step right here, instead of choosing done, you'll simply press the I don't have a Switch 2 yet. This will then take you to a screen where you can upload your Switch data to a cloud server. It will remain there for a full calendar year, which should give you plenty of time to get things moved over to a new system. Now, there's also a big difference using this method. Here, it will immediately reset your old Nintendo Switch to its factory settings after you upload this data. So definitely do not start this process until you're absolutely ready to move on from the old system. This is going to remove all your games and all your data from here. Now, if you do proceed, once this finishes, you'll then be able to log into your Nintendo account and even verify that your transfer is safely in the cloud. Then when you go through the setup process on your Switch 2 and log into your Nintendo account, you'll receive an option to download this data from the cloud. So instead of needing your original Switch to be in close physical proximity, it will download from the cloud instead. Now lastly, let's say you'd like to set up your Switch 2 as a completely fresh system, but maybe transfer over just 1 or 2 game saves. You can actually still do this through the data management settings. If you're a Nintendo Switch Online member, you can simply back up your saves to the cloud, then download them again on Switch 2. Alternatively, you can also choose the transfer your save data option on the Switch and then choose to receive that data on the Switch 2. So even though you're going from Switch 1 to Switch 2 here, this will still work. Note, however, that using this method will remove the save data completely from the old Switch. Now, once you're all set up and ready to go, you'll want to know what new games you can play as well. So check out this video next over on the right side of your screen for all the Switch 2 games releasing this month. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.